When your legs don't work like they used to before, and I can't sweep you off of your feet, will your mouth still remember the taste of my love? Will your eyes still smile from your cheeks? Darling, I will be loving you till we're 70. And baby, my heart could still fall as hard at 23. And I'm thinking about how people fall in love in mysterious ways. Maybe just the touch of a hand. Well, me, I fall in love with you every single day, and I just wanna tell you I am. So honey, now take me into your loving arms, kiss me under the light of 1,000 stars, place your head on my beating heart. I'm thinking out loud, maybe we found love right where we are. When my hair's all but gone and my memory fades, and the crowds don't remember my name, when my hands don't play the strings the same way, I know you will still love me the same. 'Cause honey, your soul could never grow old, it's evergreen. And baby, your smile's forever in my mind and memory. I'm thinking about how people fall in love in mysterious ways, and maybe it's all part of a plan. Well, I'll just keep on making the same mistakes, hoping that you'll understand. But baby, now take me into your loving arms, kiss me under the light of 1,000 stars, place your head on my beating heart. I'm thinking out loud that maybe we found love right where we are. So baby, now take me into your loving arms, kiss me under the light of 1,000 stars. Oh darling, place your head on my beating heart. I'm thinking out loud that maybe we found love right where we are. Or maybe we found love right where we are. And we found love right where we are.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Wendy Staines, and today it's my privilege to welcome you all and to thank you for coming today to honour and to pay tribute to the life of a very loved and a very special man, Christopher Kenelm Brown. Chris's passing leaves such a void in all of your lives. but particularly his beloved family. Saying goodbye to somebody who has been so central to your lives is very difficult. However, today I know that it's very much Terry and the family's desire that this service today, these moments that we share together here in the chapel, that they be very much about celebrating the wonderful man that Chris was and cherishing the wonderful memories that you all have. There would be so many memories in this chapel today. Everybody here today, you're here because you have been touched by Chris's life in one way or another. And the truth is that his influence and the impact that he has had would go way beyond the walls of this chapel. Many of you would know that Chris loved to climb mountains. And the family told me just a few days ago that he climbed many mountains in the world. And as I reflected on this, I thought what a metaphor this is for Chris's life. How he actually did his life. He didn't shy away from the tough things. He faced them head on. And his health in recent times is an example of this, a shining example. He didn't give up on life passively, but rather he took every opportunity to prepare his loved ones for his passing. And I think one of the lovely things that he did was that he made sure that every individual had special memories. He created some beautiful memories with you all so that you had something to hold on to, because he knew that he wouldn't always be here. I think that speaks volumes of the man that he was. Perhaps today, and in this very sad time, perhaps he would have you, his loved ones, see his life, but also his passing as expressed in these words. And I want to read them to you today. You can shed tears that he is gone, or you can smile because he has lived. You can close your eyes and see all that he has left. Your heart can be empty because you can't see him, or you can be full of the love that you shared. You can turn your back on tomorrow and live yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of the yesterdays. You can remember him and only that he is gone, or you can cherish his memory and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind, be empty and turn your back, or you could do what he would want. And maybe today you could imagine Chris saying to you, I want you to smile. I want you to open your eyes and see all that life has. Above all, though, I want you to keep loving each other, and I want you to go on. They're the words of a man who lived his life fully and loved fully. Terry, you and Chris have shared something very special, and we can only begin to imagine the pain that you are going through at this time. We want you to know that our hearts go out to you and to all of the family. We think today of Kelsey, Kate and Matthew at home in Canada. Very difficult time for them too, and that distance must seem so great, but I'm sure their thoughts are right here with us today. Our sympathies also to the family here, Diane, Des and Nikki, the grandchildren, Chris's sisters Penny and Bronwyn, nieces, extended family. Our hope is today that amidst the sadness of this time that you will feel the love and support that surrounds you here in the chapel, but very importantly in the days that lie ahead, those days when you need a friend, you need somebody just to be there for you. And of course, Chris was a great friend, and your presence here today is testament to the man that he was, and I thank you again for being here. The last prayer that Chris and Terry prayed together was the well-known Lord's Prayer. Many of you will be familiar with this prayer, and you'll find this prayer printed on the inside of your order of service. And today I'm going to invite you to stand and to join me in praying this prayer. Will you stand? Let us pray. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive them that trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Amen. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Well, today is about sharing in the memories, and different family members, friends are going to come and do that for us today. But I'm going to ask if you have a phone with you, if you'd be kind enough just to switch it to silent so that we can give due respect to this time. It's my privilege now to invite two of Chris's really good friends, long-term friends, and Rory's going to come first, and then Gordon will come and they'll share their words of tribute. Thank you, Rory.
They were just saying how Chris liked to climb mountains, and just reminded me that there's many ways up the mountain, and there are many different religions, and each of them is a way to get to the Supreme Being. And Chris started off as a Seventh-day Adventist, and all through his life was extremely moral. Towards the end he just had an open mind about everything, accepting, and he was a very good person. He never said a mean word about anybody. He rejoiced in his neighbour's welfare, which is a lesson for all of us. The only person he did say a bad word about was Nelson Mandela years ago, but then he changed his mind about that and said he was wrong. So that's good. And he did have a wonderful life. He had 2 degrees in engineering, a civil and a mechanical, and he worked for a few years in Canada. Then he came back and got those degrees. And he worked in the Middle East, where he met the lovely Trinidad called Terry, who's been devoted to him and sadly misses him now. And I think he was working for Wally Parsons then, and he was still actually employed by Wally Parsons on sick leave. And he was a principal engineer working on the successful oil search project. And it was good that he had that project, because all the rest of us got kicked out at the end of the mining boom. And we've mentioned the stepchildren, Diane, Des, Nikki, and the step-grandchildren were Jet and TJ, all beautiful and loving children. I worked with Chris in sail at Esso's plants in Bass Strait and Gippsland, and he made me go wild water kayaking with him. Took me over waterfalls, nearly killed me, but we had a great time. Yeah, we did the Thompson and Mitchell, McAllister rivers. We did skiing at Borbor and Mount St Guinea. Lots of mountain climbings that Bronwyn will refer to, and Gordon, who's going to follow me. So we just finished with perhaps Tennyson's poem about accepting and death, which none of us really know how to come to terms with, but we're all going to go through with it. And perhaps we can envy Chris that he welcomed death and was quite resigned to it and said, don't worry, don't mourn. He's very ready to go. So as Tennyson said, twilight and evening bell, and after that the dark, and may there be no sad farewell when I embark. For out our burn of time and place, though the flood may bear me far, I hope to see my pilot face to face when I have crossed the bar. So Chris is up there now. Thank you.
Thanks, Rory. Just want to thank you all for coming and showing your respect for Chris. I know many of you have come a great distance to be here. It's very much appreciated. As said, Chris didn't want this to be a sad day. He wanted today to be a celebration of his life. Chris was a very special fellow. People don't come much better than him. I'm sure they broke the mould after they made him. He was always on the move. His great passions, apart from his family, were people, nature and travel. I only met Chris 11.5 years ago, but I feel like I've known him all his life because he was always so full of stories. Stories of his childhood, growing up with Penny and Bronwyn in Tasmania, his relatives in New South Wales, his work in Victoria and around Australia, overseas in Canada, Saudi, Malaysia, and most recently in Brisbane and Papua New Guinea with Wally Parsons. I first met Chris when I walked into a meeting between our respective engineering firms on a joint project. We quickly realised we had a lot in common. We both were mechanical engineers. We'd both worked recently in Malaysia. We both had Filipino wives. Terry's daughters were a similar age to mine, and we lived close by in the western suburbs. Chris loved people. He had family and friends all over the globe, from his children, Kelsey, Kate and Matthew in Canada, to his friend Lim in Malaysia. He was always amused that people laughed when he spoke about his mate Han in Regina. Chris was always at tennis with Walter and his mates, or out dancing with other mates, or going for drinks or dinner, or socialising, but almost always with Terry at his side and lots of friends around. He enjoyed having barbecues, either at home or in parks, with lots of friends invited, and maybe his friend Rory sitting on top of a door. There was always lots of food, good stories, and great company. Over the last months, as his health was failing, he still looked forward to outings and people coming to visit him. Chris always tried to assist those around him, including trying to help people find work. He was still trying to help those around him just last week. Chris was very intelligent, with a wealth of engineering and other knowledge. He once told me that he felt he had the best job in the world. He figured, where else could you be paid to work for something that was exciting, where you're constantly learning and meeting new challenges and working alongside interesting people? Chris loved nature and bushwalking. He'd take his friends for long walks through national parks and, as mentioned, especially up mountains. If you let him, he'd take you on a walk for hours. And hours. And hours. I recall trips to Springbrook, Mount Barney, I missed that 2-day trek, Bunya Mountains, Mount Warning with Jono and Bronwyn. Bronwyn got a couple of souvenirs on that one. And Mount Nebo. He even took Terry up Mount Kilimanjaro, and he liked to mime how you have to walk when you're running short of oxygen. Being a crazy Tasmanian, he'd also invite you in for a swim in the middle of winter when the water was 5 degrees. Chris loved to travel. There were his trips to Canada to see his family, the trekking in Nepal to do Everest Base Camp. I think he went 2 or 3 times there. Trips to New Zealand, Lake Eyre, Kakadu. It's little wonder that his favourite joke ended with the punchline, Timbuktu. Anyway, Chris, if you're up there, we'll miss you. You've been a great friend, hard to keep up with, but job well done, and may you rest in peace.
Thank you, Rory. Thank you, Gordon, for such lovely words of insight into your mate, your very dear friend. We're now going to have Chris's sisters come and share, and I'm going to invite Bronwyn first and then Penny, and 2 of his nieces, Jo and Rachel, following. Thank you.
Hi, I might double up a little bit on some of the things that have already been said. When I first started to write this eulogy for Chris, the first heading that came into mind was the intrepid adventurer. So that's the heading, because that's what I saw him as. He had some really hard times in his life, and some traumatic and heartbreaking and difficult times. But the thing about Chris was he never complained, and like Rory was saying before, he never spoke ill of anybody, so I think they're 2 really worthy traits. When he was 17, he almost died from a mystery illness, but miraculously he was healed from that. He had a big scar left down the middle, which he called his railway track. But nothing held Chris back for long. He lived life to the full, and like what's already been said, every week he did his dancing and his tennis and his gym and his bushwalks. And so to me he was a bit like Sir Edmund Hillary, travelling the world and conquering the mountains such as Kilimanjaro, which I've heard a lot about from Terry, more than from Chris really, her experiences there, as she was carried down, I think. He also climbed in Tibet and the base camp with his children from Canada, and the base camp at Mount Everest, and he did lots of treks in beautiful Canada. Chris lived in countries like in exotic places where he worked, in Saudi Arabia and Brunei, and places where I'd be scared to go and live in. I have special memories of the bushwalks and camping trips that I went on organised by Chris, which I would never have done otherwise. I loved the walks, and I loved sitting around the campfire, and Rory, if he was there, playing the guitar. But I wasn't a big fan of sleeping in the tent, in the sleeping bag in the freezing cold. I remember a couple of trips back, I was in a tent near Terry and Chris, and I heard Terry murmur something, and I heard Chris say, "It's not cold." And then I heard Terry murmur something again, and Chris said, "It's not cold." And then he said it for the 3rd time. And in the morning there was a thick frost over the ground. Terry had a towel wrapped around her head, a turban, and all these clothes. And the last camping trip we went on, I think about 2 years ago, I think it was in May, and it was the usual freeze up in Girraween National Park. But Chris would never admit it was cold. In the morning I had my suitcase outside the tent, and when I got up in the morning it was covered in like about this much ice. And so before I opened it, I took it round to Chris and I said, "Look, Chris, this is ice." But he still wouldn't admit it was cold, so I gave up. Right. Another time, early time, we climbed Mount Warning, which Gordon's mentioned, and Chris was very patient with me, and he kept to my pace, and he just kept walking with me, even though back then he walked a lot faster, and Gordon actually went up and down twice, while we only went once. Yeah, the souvenirs from that was where I slipped over on the rock and got a huge bruise. I couldn't get up for about 20 minutes, so I nearly passed out. But Chris waited for me. He just waited for me. So he was very patient. And but the last camping trip, when we were walking, Chris was the one that fell behind instead of me, and we had to wait for him. So that was a couple of years ago. So that's when I knew something was really wrong. And as has already been said too, family and friends were so important to Chris. For many years, up until I moved to Tassie last December, he would phone every Sunday night without fail if I didn't phone him first. And he always said, "I love you." And that was a big thing, because we grew up in a time and a family where people didn't say that. So he always kept in touch with and visited as many family and friends as he could. And I wanted to say a big thank you to Terry especially. She once told me that she believed that God found Chris for her. Well, I think that works both ways. She's been so great, the way she's looked after him through all this awful illness, and all the fantastic meals she's prepared for him, and all the caring and strength that she's shown. And I just want you to know how much we appreciate that and love you. And all your friends here, you just meant so much to Chris, and he so enjoyed all the times you spent together. It's said that the people in our lives, loved ones and friends, they all contribute to the tapestry of who we are. And Chris has given me love and adventure and some wonderful memories that I'll always have, and as each of you will with your experiences with him. And so he'll live in our hearts. And I'll just read this little bit in the card someone gave me. As difficult as this time is, may you find comfort in knowing that your loved one will always be with you, and the memories you shared will be forever a part of your life.
I think Bronwyn said it all really already, and I really want to just reinforce our love of Terry, and thank you, Terry, and all of family. Thank you, all of you, for all that you've done for Chris, and just say how much you've become part of our family and how we love you very much. And we want you to know that we love and support you through this hard time. It's falling to me now we're now going to read tributes from Chris's children who are unable to be here. I'm going to read Kelsey's reflection, she calls it, and Joe is going to read Kate, and Rachel's going to read from Matthew. So we'll just read the little letters that they've written in to be read today. As a small child, Dad's love of the natural world was infectious. He filled my sandbox with sand that he dug up from the beach. It was full of shells and seaweeds, and so it was very exciting to play in. When I was 10, I asked for a pony, and he said yes. The next weekend, we took a long drive to a knackery, and he had me pick one out, and I rode it home. I'd never been on a horse before. On one visit to Canada, we backpacked in the Rocky Mountain with a friend of mine. In the middle of a hiking day, Dad dropped his pack and said, "We should shimmy up that peak." It was off the official trail. The friend refused. He thought it was dangerous, and he was already tired from the day's hike. Of course, I followed Dad up. Ascending the peak took a lot longer than expected. That's always the case with Chris, we all know that. And he had us sliding down the rock face. But eventually we got to the top and we built a cairn. I could tell Dad was proud of me in that moment. If I could paint a picture of Dad, it would be sitting on a fallen tree log in the bush. There's a twinkle in his eye, a Snickers bar snack ready to fuel the rest of the hike, and a sense of absolute peace. My dad was larger than life to me, and it feels impossible that he's gone. I know now that wherever he is, he's doing things his way and making the most of it. Loving death as he loved life. There's not a day that I will not think of you, dear Dad. Thank you. I love you.
Hi, Terry and Penny. Okay, right, read down there. It's hard to put into words the horrible pit in my stomach and the ache that I feel in my bones as I wrap my head around the fact that Dad is no longer living. Knowing that he is no longer just a phone call away, that he won't be returning my emails, that he won't be creating new memories with me and my boys. Though he did prepare us for this moment over the past few months, and even with our last conversation when he said, "It's time, and I'm ready now." It doesn't numb the knot of pain that I feel. When I said goodbye to him on the phone, he said quite calmly and clearly, "Please just celebrate my life." So with this in mind, I thought I'd share some happy classic Dad times that we've shared and that many of you will be able to relate to. Playing Scrabble and debating which words were actually words and whether we could just trust the type of dictionary that we had on hand. Going for walks, many walks, which were always longer than originally promised, and always being told, just a little further to go, nearly there. Dad wearing his mum's hand-knit wool sweater that he had owned forever. I remember the smell of it. It smelt like Dad, and I recall him wearing it countless times over the years, especially during his last few months when he was always very cold. Watching Dad do crosswords when Norm was around. Norm is the king of the crosswords, as he always wanted to figure out the clue on his own, but he knew Norm would know the answer right away. Seeing Dad play with Quentin when Q was only 1.5 years old, and Dad saying proudly that he thought Q to be very clever and to take after him. Dad saying repeatedly throughout our 1 month Nepal trek that if he were to fall over the very steep cliff edge, that we should just leave him there at the bottom of the valley and that he'd be very happy to die like that, and we should not bother to retrieve his body. As a child, I recall many times falling asleep and hearing Dad play classical music on the piano like Moonlight Sonata or Fur Elise. Eating disgusting curried sausages for every meal any time Mum was away. Perhaps that's why I'm a vegetarian today. Sharing a drink with him before dinner, he would always say just one nice cold beer before dinner. His disgust of air conditioning and always blaming the AC for people's health issues and not understanding why more people just didn't open the window and breathe in the fresh air. Taking canoes out for a paddle in the ocean after not being used for many months and having all sorts of spiders come crawling out from under seats and cracks and having to paddle back to the shore to carry them to safety of the grass. Eating a giant pavlova on my last day with him in Australia despite being intolerant to eggs and dairy, which is what pavlova mostly consists of, but knowing that he wouldn't enjoy it as much if I didn't indulge too. Walking with Dad and Kelsey through Wilson's prom, and Dad stepping over a giant snake that was basking in the sun across the path, and then my sister and I having to follow suit, as there was no other way around it, and Dad was not going to break stride for something silly like a snake. I loved my dad's sense of adventure and general love of the environment. I hope to instill in my children these loves and passions too, which is not easy considering that we're growing up in a large city. But I will think of him every time I go camping or take a road trip or take the time to stop and enjoy seeing someone's garden. Love, Kate.
And here's a few words from Matt. No matter how much time passed between visits, the first thing Dad and I would do together is pick up our rackets and go have a hit of tennis. I remember waking up early many mornings to find Dad already showered, breakfast eaten, and see him sitting with his coffee and crossword in hand, telling us we had slept in, before proceeding to list the numerous events he had planned for us that day. Hiking and or fishing were usually at the top of the agenda. Dad loved a good glass of red wine with supper and some big band music playing in the background. And if he really liked the wine, he would take the bottle with him. He always had a story to tell about a mountain he'd climbed and the people he met along the way. Dad loved life and never shied away from a new challenge. He pushed himself and those around him to the limit. Later in life, he became quite the dancer. He dragged Carolyn on the dance floor many times, knowing that she would step all over his feet. I've cherished memories of having Dad celebrate with me on my wedding day and of holding our dear Aubrey in his arms just days after she was born. She will be growing up, hearing about her pops and all the wild adventures he had over the years. When I think of Dad, I will always remember the good times we had and all the laughs we shared along the way. We love you, Dad. May your soul rest in peace. Love, Matthew, Carolyn and Aubrey.
Memories are powerful, aren't they? Thank you for sharing some of your memories, some of the wonderful memories that you've shared with Chris. I'm now going to invite Diane to come, and she's going to come and share some words of tribute.
Just want to thank everybody for being here today. We're looking at everyone and we see, relatives and some friends that I've actually never met. Thank you all for coming today. As you all know, most of you probably don't, Dad's our stepdad, but he treated us like his own. He was just wonderful to us. Whatever we need, we'll just sit there and talk about nonsense, and he would listen. He would put up with us. He's been a dad for a long, long time. He's been wonderful. We couldn't ask any more from him. He's by far the best dad in the world. If you think you have the best dad, well, I'm sorry. Ours is better. the most recent memories that we've got is my wedding. He was having a hard time walking then. He had a fall the day before, but he still walked me down the aisle, and I'll forever treasure it. In the reception, he made this big speech, and it was just wonderful, just telling us how proud he is of me and how much he loved me and all that stuff. And for him not be able to stand up at that time because it's very late, he still danced. He still boogie in his wheelchair. It was just dancing, and our first down, he's in his wheelchair and he's dancing with all the grandchildren and everybody while he's in his wheelchair. And I remember Tito Cisco, Dad's friend, helping him to dance around with his wheelchair. In his last day, we were all there and we're saying he wanted us to say goodbye, and he did say that he wanted us to celebrate his life. And I turned around and he said that you're too emotional. And I said, well, what do you think? I'm the most emotional of this family. I always cry. But he's just wonderful. He loves everybody. He'll meet strangers and becomes his friend. I don't think he has any acquaintance. I think everybody in this room are his friends. He'll meet someone in the restaurant, and 21 years later, they're still friends. It's just amazing. Just amazing. And he loves our mom so much. You can see in his eyes every time. Doesn't matter where they are, you'll know how much he loves our mom, and vice versa. Our mom loves him dearly. And we'll always remember him, no matter what. We'll tell the whole world how amazing he was and how wonderful he is.
Dad, I think what I loved about that is he's the most realistic person.
Oh, yes.
He didn't like those movies that weren't real. He's like, no, that's not real. I don't like that movie. He always says that's rubbish. Yeah. He has a sense of adventure, like we've all heard, and that's what I love about him. We would have never taken those hiking trips if it wasn't for him. We would have never gone climbing up mountains, hikings, going for a swim. If it
He will
wasn't
always
for him,
go hike, he will always walk, and I will find the nearest bench to sit on. Because when he say 500 meters, he means 5K that way. And I would be like, I will see you later.
he's the best dad.
Yes.
I don't think I can stretch that, you know? Dad always had friends everywhere. He had his bus mates. He just called the other day, and actually he was looking for Dad, and I had to break the news to him. He was very upset about it. Dad made friends in the hospital, and they always said how brave he was and how accepting he was of life. And he's such a good role model to us, you know?
Yes.
He lived life to the fullest, and we should all be happy about that.
I just want to add, when he was doing chemo, when he could still walk, he would use his chemo and walk around the ward, and the nurse would get mad at him saying, sit down. And he's like, no, I just need to stretch while he's doing chemo in his arm. So he's just amazing. He's very, yeah. We could talk about him for hours of how amazing he was, but yeah, we will always treasure him. All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. You've painted a beautiful picture of the man that Chris was, and we've heard some really wonderful memories today, memories that remind us that they truly are our treasures in life. We're going to have some further memories now of Chris's life, and it's memories with photographs. And I invite you to cast your eyes to the screen and just take these moments to reflect on your friend, Chris. Thank you.
When you're down and troubled and you need a helping hand, and nothing is going right, Close your eyes and think of me, and soon I will be there to brighten up even your darkest night. You just call up my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running. Oh yeah, babe, to see you again. Winter, spring, summer, or fall, now all you got to do is call, and I'll be there, yeah, yeah, yeah. You've got a friend. If the sky above you should turn dark and full of clouds, and that old north wind should begin to blow, keep your head together and call my name out loud now. Soon I'll be knocking upon your door. You just call up my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running. Oh yes, I will see you again. Winter, spring, summer, or fall, yeah. All you got to do is call, and I'll be there, yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, ain't it good to know that you got a friend? When people can be so cold, they'll hurt you and desert you. Well, they'll take your soul if you let them. Oh yeah, but don't you let them. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running to see you again. Oh babe, don't you know about winter, spring, summer, or fall? Hey, now all you've got to do is call. Lord, I'll be there, yes I will. Know you've got a friend. You've got a friend, yeah. Ain't it good to know you've got a friend? Ain't it good to know you've got a friend? Oh yeah, yeah, you've got a friend.
I cried a tear, you wiped it dry. I was confused, you cleared my mind. I sold my soul, you bought it back for me and held me up and gave me dignity. Somehow you needed me. You gave me strength to stand alone again, to face the world out on my own again. You put me high upon a pedestal, so high that I could almost see eternity. You needed me, you needed me, and I can't believe it's you, I can't believe it's true. I needed you, and you were there, and I'll never leave. Why should I leave? I'd be a fool, 'cause I finally found someone who really cares. You held my hand when it was cold, when I was lost. You took me home, you gave me hope when I was at the end, and turned my lies back into truth again. You even called me friend, you gave me strength to stand alone again, to face the world out on my own again. You put me high upon a pedestal, so high that I could almost see eternity. You needed me, you needed me, you needed me, you needed me.
Great memories. Terry, I'm going to invite you to come and share your words. Yes? Kane will come first.
My pop was the one that taught me how to swim and play chess. Pop was the best pop in the world. He was caring and loving and kind and generous. I remember that Pop loved nature and board games. I miss him so much. Love him, and I can never find another Pop like him. I will miss him and cherish his memory forever. I love you, Pop.
Good job.
First of all, I would like to thank everyone for joining us to commemorate the celebration of Chris' life. It was in 2010 when Chris was diagnosed of rare blood cancer, lymphoma with Waldenstrom disease associated with amyloid. Too much long. I still remember when we were both pretending to sleep that night. It was the longest night of our life. The following day, we learned to live one day at a time. Chris did not stop working. He loves his work and enjoyed sharing his knowledge to younger engineers working alongside with him. Aside from workmates, he has a busmates. Yeah, that's my daughters always say. New acquaintances most of the time became his good friends and mine too. He enjoyed connecting with people. That is probably the character we were both compatible. Chris loved mountain climbings. That's what you ever hear. Every mountain he walked, he made it sure he would reach the top. He inspired most of his friends. He actually made me climb the Kilimanjaro mountain. I never climbed any mountain in my life before I met him. And after that, you heard where they've been, and I've been with him as well. Every time he reaches the top, he feels he's closer to heaven. Mount Kuta became our Saturday track. Yeah. Oh, you're gaining weight, let's go and go up, you know. Tennis was his Sunday activities while I go to church. He goes playing tennis, but when it's raining or I'm in my lowest time, he would come to me in the church. Yeah. Every time Chris came from tennis, he was always happy. Win or lose, it does not make any difference to him. He said to me, I don't need to win every time in the game, or else my tennis mates will not play with me anymore. Chris enjoyed relaxing in the pool after a day of tennis. My grandchildren were lucky to enjoy their time with him in the pool. He taught all of them how to swim. Chris loved to eat. Chemotherapy did not stop him from eating good food, especially his favorite Filipino chicken wings adobo. He also loves ice cream with blueberries and lots of cream. He also inspired me to create new ideas in cooking. He always gives me a score every meal. A score of 9 means he liked it, but the plate was not too warm. And a score of 9.5 means he loves it. He never gave me 10. He said a score of 10 means no more room for improvement. He was afraid I might stop cooking for him. I gave me 10. In spite of his conditions, distance is not an excuse for him to attend his daughter's wedding and his son's Matthew's wedding in Canada. He was able to walk Diane in the altar on her wedding day. Even he had difficulty walking, because I was telling Diane, can I just walk with you? But Diane said, I like Daddy, I like them. So Chris said, no problem. Chris always made it an effort to reach people he loves on their special days. No long distance or financial difficulties can make him stop to do it. He can call them, he can send them a message, you know. Chris knew I loved to dance. He went to dancing lesson. He enjoyed it too, although he really gave me a hard time before I learned. I told him, by the time you learn, I will be invalid already. Dancing became a part of our life every Wednesday or Thursday after his work. And every party we attended, he was my best dancing partner. Chris gives me a smile every morning over a cup of tea. He would say, "It's a beautiful morning, sweetheart." His smile is enough for me to keep on going the whole day. We always say, "I love you" in the morning. "I love you" every time we end up talking on the phone. And "I love you" before sleeping. It's true, life is so unpredictable. During the last 8 months, Chris was full of hope that we were able to fight this cancer. Although his legs were becoming weaker every day, he still managed to do his walking exercises around the house religiously. Chris appreciates every friend who visits him in the hospital and at home. He was always happy to see them and would say to me afterwards, "How kind of them to visit me." While he was getting weaker, he became my strength. Surprisingly, it made our relationship stronger. It hurts me to see him in his condition, but I was happy to take care of him. For me, it was the most important part of our relationship. Nothing so sure whatever life will bring, but one thing I was sure then, our love had grown every day. Our love and respect we shared together was unbelievable experience. To take care of my husband, for me, it's a gift. Christopher Brown, my beloved husband, my best friend, generous, kind, heart-loving father, and a very kind and grandfather, very loving brother, and good friends to everyone. He has fulfilled his life journey on earth and is now in God's love and mercy. He feels a lot better now. In every mountain he climbed, Chris made it sure that he always reached the top with his thumbs up. I can imagine him with thumbs up. Now, wherever he is in his journey, he finally reached the ultimate destination when he said, "I am ready to go." Very brave person I've never ever seen. So brave. To all who came today, with all your love and prayers and more support in this journey, I and my family would like to thank you all. Chris, my husband, my best friend, I will be missing you in all familiar places. I'm hoping that this pain of missing you now will go one day. But the best memories we shared will remain in my heart.
Thank you, Terry. You have inspired us today. And I'm sure that I can hear Chris saying 10 out of 10. You know, it has been said that those that we have laughed with, leaned on and learned from leave us with the very best memories. We've heard today, and you all know that Chris has been all of those things and more. It's interesting that on a day like this, and when we're faced with the tragedy of saying goodbye to somebody who we love so dearly, that the memories that come flooding back are usually not the big feats in life, but rather the small, sometimes seemingly insignificant gestures or acts of kindness. These are the memories that warm our hearts. These are the memories that make us realise that our lives have truly been enriched and forever changed. Today in this chapel, as we say goodbye to Chris, we realise that his impact and his influence, and indeed the legacy that he leaves behind, those things don't stay here. They will go with you. and they will continue to inspire you to live the very best life that you can live. Because at the end of the day, that is the best tribute that you can pay to your friend, Chris. I encourage you all to go with the memories that warm your hearts and bring a smile. Terry, and to Penny and Bronwyn, we think of the family in Canada, family here. In these very difficult moments that we've come to in our service where we're going to say goodbye to Chris, we offer to you again our heartfelt sympathies. We want you to know, your family and friends, that as you stand, that you're not alone, that we stand right here with you, alongside you. I want to thank everybody for being here again today. Your presence here today is a gift to the family. And in a few moments, we will stand together to honour Chris's life. Following our service, you will be invited to join the family in the hospitality room where refreshments will be served. So at the end of our service, we'll invite everybody to leave the chapel, but there will be opportunity when everybody moves to the hospitality room. If anybody would like to have a viewing of Chris and to say your goodbye, you're welcome to just come back quietly into the chapel, and that time will be available to you. Now, I believe that before we say our goodbye, there's one more tribute, is there?
Life is an ocean with a hint of the wind from up above, because we live and we learn. We love and we fall. We thrive and we lose. But at the end of the day, we succeeded. Here we are today saying our prayers to God.
We are thankful for the love we've received, for the good times and the bad times too. We will always treasure the love. Life is like an ocean with the hint of the wind from up above.
Once upon a dream, once upon a tomorrow, once upon a night, till we meet again.
Today is the day we say goodnight.
Good night.
Well done. Good words to bring our service to that place of goodbye. As we come to the final moments of our service, I'm going to invite Rory to come, and he's going to bring to us a beautiful song. And at the conclusion of his song, I will invite you to stand as I offer a prayer of thanksgiving for Chris's life, and then we will farewell him.
Just use this to bring some wine that I'm going to drink for Chris. When my brother was dying, his friends sang this praise chant of the words of the thief on the cross. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And it seemed to bring up peace and helped him go peacefully. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. We'll do it once more and everyone can join in. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come in. into your kingdom. And then there was another one they sang, I think that was the agony in the garden when Jesus asked his friends to stay with him. Stay, stay here, stay by me, watch and pray. Stay here, stay by me, watch and pray. Thank you, everyone. I couldn't let Chris go.
Shall we pray? God, our Heavenly Father, we've just been reminded that you remember each one of us. You know us by name. And so now we come to this time of our service where we commit Chris into your loving arms. We thank you for his life. We thank you for every gift that he possessed in his personality, in the way that he loved unconditionally. We're thankful now that he now rests peacefully, free from all suffering. And I just ask that in these very difficult moments of goodbye, that your arms of love will just come and surround Terry, the family, Bronwyn, Penny, the whole family. That they will know that they are upheld, that your peace will guard their hearts and their minds. And I ask for a peace for every person here today. And we now commit Chris into your safekeeping. Amen. As Christopher Kenelm Brown has been taken from us, we now commit his body to the elements and his memory to the hearts of those who love him, in the hope that one day you will meet again. Rest peacefully, Chris. A life well lived. To the family today, our hope is that in time that you too will have a peace in your hearts. Thank you, everyone. And if you would allow the family to be ushered out first, and then all just follow on out to the refreshment area. And then those that would like to come and view Chris and say a final goodbye, if you'd make your way back into the chapel. Thank you, everybody.
Spend all your time waiting for that second chance, for a break that would make it okay. There's always some reason to feel not good enough, and it's hard at the end of the day. I need some distraction. Oh, beautiful release.
I'm going to invite that those who would like to leave the chapel and go to refreshment area now, if you would be kind enough to leave the chapel, and perhaps those who would like to view, if you just take your seats and stay. Thank you.
tied up in a straight line, and everywhere you turn, there's vultures and thieves at your back. Storm keeps on twisting, keep on building the lies that you made.